We have seen days when things were good, and we have seen days when things are horrible. What we all witnessed but cannot be put on air is something the most horrible. I think it's the nadir. I think it's the bottom line. I think it's the abyss. I think it's where the humanity collapses. It's where the questions must be asked to powerful people. It's where we must be asking the questions, who is responsible for this in Manipur? We must be asking this question, why Manipur continues to burn? We must ask question, is it fair to connect Manipur with what has happened in Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan? Are we comparing apples with peaches? We must ask this question. We must ask this question as to why administration has not seen in force, why lawmakers are not going to the relief camp, why lawmakers are not sitting together, why lawmakers are behaving as they belong to just one community, not to the state of Manipur, not to the Union of India, Bharat, that is Union of States, India, that is Bharat, that is Union of States. Why? And it's not rhetoric. It is not rhetoric. The fact of the matter is that there is the political determination to do better in election dominates what is better for Manipur. And it is for this reason the dialogue has not succeeded. And it is for this reason that Manipur continues to fester. And this is my question to our panelists. I want them on board again. I want to see my panelists. And before I go to Hasina and Ramesh, to you, isn't this the reason? चुनाव पहले जीतना है, बाद में सारी चीजें आती हैं. ये जो एक festering problem है electoral democracy की, it's taking a toll on Manipur.
Well, I don't see any wrong with political parties wanting to win the election. That is the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the game. There's nothing wrong in it. But Kartikeya, what is wrong is that you put precedence of something over something which is very, very brutal and heinous, which is unfolding. For example, if you put precedence of winning election over what is happening in the state of Manipur in the last 70 days, then it definitely does create a problem. And I think, the problem is also that if the state government was given a severe dressing down, if the state government was told and ensured that the state government actually makes an honest outreach to both the communities, I think the situation would have been a lot more different. But nothing of that sort was done, and that is the reason why you see that this entire outreach program has not happened. Look at the peace committee which was announced with great fanfare. It fizzled out in the second it was announced. With people walking out. The government's outreach was simply not there. There were statements which was made, there were words which were said, but the outreach was not there. And the outreach ended up further worsening the situation rather than improving it, and that is the most unfortunate aspect. No track 2, no track 3, no outreach by respectable people who belong to ethnicity other than these two, other than Kuki Maitis. No other ethnicity made that kind of attempt. So the net result was what we are witnessing right now.
Prasanjit, Professor, is it correct to say what Brijesh is saying, that the political outreach was so muddled on ethnic lines that the political outreach did not create a social solution? It ended up hardening the political cleavage.
I mean, his assessment is broadly correct. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen this kind of a gory incident. And there are many other types of totally abysmally wrong kind of incidents that are perpetrated, and it continued for a while in the form of a cycle of violence. Had there been right kind of intervention, the peace committee, and previous to the peace committee, the larger context of representation of the hill and the valley, if all these asymmetries were sorted out in a desirable manner, in a manner that makes a better Manipur than what it is today, then we would not have seen this day at all. So it's a kind of a counterfactual, which is very rightly put by the editor here. So therefore, I would say that the governmental intervention is something that remains very crucial and critical. And government has gone tilted. Various sections of government, the elected representatives, the people who are actually accountable, these people haven't come down to the field, or they haven't controlled the situation, or they haven't ensured law and order in a situation of violence. So therefore, the entire fault goes on the chief minister in particular and his cabinet, and also the other elected representatives. None of them can absorb their accountability. They cannot pass the blame on something else. Therefore, as long as he's chief minister, Sri Biren Singh should have been much more, sensitive to the whole situation. He's doing his level best, we understand, but it cannot be that he cannot control the situation. So if he cannot control the situation has to be controlled by Delhi. That's the constitutional way. So we do not see enough of a positioning, enough of an action taken on a day-to-day basis from the state government as well as from the central government. It is like allowing people to do this kind of a perpetration. Certain people who are interested, they're allowed to do this kind of a conflagration, this kind of a fratricidal rioting, mayhem, torture, brutalization, rape, and all kinds of forms of violence and torture, dehumanizing forms of violence and torture have happened across last 75 years. There's no substantial intervention. So you can understand which way it is going, as if Manipur is no one's case, no one's enemy. That cannot be the case. Manipur is part and parcel of India, and all these communities living in Manipur are Indians. So no one should create a situation of division by calling certain community as outsider and certain community as insider. One can talk about it, but in a moment of rioting, in a moment of mayhem, if this becomes the identity of the people, then
Prasanajit, let me just read this out. Let me just read this out for our viewers. Shalini, just throw the camera to both me and Brijesh, and let me read this out. The complainant, one in her 20s and another in the 40s, this complaint has been accessed by a daily newspaper from Delhi. Now, in the complainant, one of the complainant has said that who were forced to walk naked down a road towards the field by a mob of men. She says that they had fled to forest for shelter after the village in Kangpoki district was attacked by a mob, and that they were later rescued by Thubal police and were taken to the police station, but was stopped on the way by a mob and seized from police custody around 2 kilometers away from the police station. Basically, the police was not able to do its job. The mob was huge. Woman in a complaint is saying. And it also says, and the complainant also says that there were too many men in the mob and she is unable to recognize everyone, which is very obvious in understanding the trauma of the situation. And the worst part is, some of them were known to her brother. So, Brijesh, this is the reality of partition. This is the reality of violence. Your neighbor next door can commit the heinous of crime just because the othering has happened.
The othering has happened, and also, Kartikeya, the fact is, one of the strange paradox in India is that, we either put our women to such high pedestal that, that like she's goddess, she's the most important person and all, as like, a symbol of male honor. And that is the reason why when the reverse spin happens, they are used in war of crime as like, as somebody who's assaulting your honor rather than treating her like a normal human being, which I would say would work more wonders for her than being treated to another level. The fact is that when this kind of situation happened, and it's very important to understand the context behind this incident, Kartikeya, that a video was circulated. And I completely agree with Mr. Dongal, who is here sitting on the panel, that a video was circulated by someone saying that a Maiti woman has been raped by Kuki people, and that video was circulated, which led to a lot of fanning of sentiment. And I think the first person that needs to be arrested and brought to book and handed out the harshest of punishment possible is the person who circulated that video. Post that video, a lot of sentiment, people went amok, a lot of sentiment was fanned, and people thought that, it is the time for revenge, we have to extract revenge, and it's in a very unfortunate sequence of events, these two ladies were caught in that kind of quagmire. Because othering was happening, and also the fact that you see that, women from your ethnicity has been brutalized by men of other ethnicity. And that fanned the sentiment to another level, where the proximity, the knowingness that I know you.
ये क्या है? ये यूपी में देखने को मिलता था.
No, but it is always there,
let me
Kartikeya.
complete. कि इनको अपनी जगह दिखानी है. The sort of violence which has happened is कि इनको अपनी जगह दिखानी है. I mean to say, my head hangs in shame.
No, but Kartikeya, this is not a UP-centric phenomena. I'm sorry, but this happens anywhere where this kind of violence happens. You know, the women are the targets. Why? Because they are, it's like, false. I won't hesitate to use the word idiotic imagery of her being the honor of the man. And that is why the assault is there too. And that is why most of the women and girl child are subjected to these kind of brutalization, is because by attacking them, you also kind of try to send a message that the honor has been, besmirched, or honor has been done. So this happens everywhere. And this has happened here in Manipur, which is extremely shocking. But I think, the government must also take strongest possible action against the person who spread this fake news. Unfortunately, we don't know whether any kind of action has been taken or an FIR has been lodged and all. I mean, this video which has come, and I would again like to quote Mr. Dongle, is, as he says, called blessing in disguises, because it has all of a sudden jolted everyone out of their seats to see that, oh my God, this is what is happening in the state of Manipur, and they are shaken to the core, whether and are forced to react, whether by their like or dislike, but then they are forced to react.
Mr. Dongle.
Yeah, I went out of context for a while. Can you please?
No, I'm saying, I think that's a fair point to make, because women become, in the patriarchal dialogue, honor of the community. That is why they are being targeted. So, women are not seen as an individual. They become it. That's the worst part. Patriarchy in its ugliest form.
Yes.
Though there is nothing much to boost off of patriarchy, but then this is the ugliest form.
Yeah, as a student of sociology, I can also, adhere or otherwise align myself to the view of one of our editor there. You see how in a patriarchal society, as we have seen and have heard, how women has become, an object of portraying the honor of the man. Not just in Manipur, but also we have seen how women have been become a soft target by the family members in elsewhere across Indian states. And today, that ugly side of patriarchy is in full display here in Manipur. We have seen, if you look at the entire episode that panned out in Manipur, and how women, on the other hand, target, but on the other side, I'm talking about the difference between Métis and the Kuki tribal community. You see how the men from the valley, the Métis community, have used the women as a soft target because they're vulnerable, because they're defenseless, to show that the honor of the men of the Kuki community, other community, is being suppressed or tainted. Whereas on the other side, you also see the Métis women, the mothers, the Mera Paidis, let me reiterate it again, using their nakedness as a weapon, as a lethal weapon. Okay, let me call it lethal weapon, to be able to safeguard the honor of their men who is committing atrocities or crimes here in this case. So there is, if you look at it, there is a dichotomy, or otherwise there is difference in between how honor is being viewed and how honor is being targeted. Whereas on the side, we have the cookies. On the other hand, although there was false news propagated, spread across, the cookies have never, until today, has never acted against the Métis women, despite the violence, panning out this way. Once the video became viral, I was in several WhatsApp groups, and many people from the Cookie Joe community were furious. There's outpouring of anger in the WhatsApp group. But on the other hand, we also see how the student leaders and the civil society leaders begging the community, the civilians, not to spread the video or otherwise not to react on what we have
I think there's a bit
during
of a voice
circulation.
yes, Mr. Dongle. Yes, Mr. Dongle.
I can,
Yes. Tell me. Complete
yeah,
yourself.
I cannot I cannot imagine if the same video of a Meitei woman being raped this way and being paraded naked was
I really
circulated
don't want to
within
get into
the
that
other
part of the
community.
conversation. I really don't want to get into that part of the conversation, but I can definitely say that it has a lot of things have happened, in this context. And when I say that a lot of things have happened in this context, I would say that women have been, women must have been equally attacked by both communities. I think it's not about stereotyping a community. I think that's not the situation. These are old visuals, Hasina. And at that point of time, it was so evident. People had marked, I'm playing these visuals again. People were forced to write it. It's like revisiting the memories. If you don't revisit the memories, you don't know what has happened. That is why I've saved all of it. And I'm running it again on the channel. If you do this, this is what happens in the end, Hasina. This happened on May 11th, and this is the reason why what happened in Manipur is why the othering started like this. घर के सामने नाम लिखने पड़े.
I think, Kartikeya, this divide has come very, very strongly in terms from the very beginning. And that divide has made the violence escalate, and also because there has not been any strong administration, intervention from the very beginning. The escalation has went in diverse situations, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's women and girls, whether there's a relief situation, it's people's safety, what happened, outside the school. All these are violent that get escalated when there is an absence of law and order situation in a state. When the law and order situation is not being taken into consideration, that escalation will flare up if there's no messaging, there's no strong intervention. At the end of the day, I think it's so critical to also look that sexual violence tape that when made the whole country talk. All the political leaders has come to give their message, give their statement, tweet, understood that this is something that is making everybody speak, but at the cost of women going through the situation that everybody raised their voice. I mean, a country like India, at this point, a democracy, when there's a parliament thing going on, why don't they just keep the political parties aside,
Absolutely.
keep their opinions of political parties aside, and look at from the constitutional framework on human rights violation that has happened?